I invite you now, step within here and see. Eat of the light of the stone. Drink of the wine of stone. Time here is on heel. Drink of the wine of stone. Time here is on heel. Phantoms flare on bedrock. I invite you now, step within and swim in the water of stone. Dissolve. Dissolve into this bath of sparks. The moon in her mask of white joy. The moon in her mask of white joy. Feel the risk of holiness. Stones aflame, young lovers of ice. Taste of the stone, taste of the stone. Swim in the stone, bathe in this wave of sparks.
Whatever the Infinite One was thinking first took shape in the luminous confines of Hotel Barbello, in the presence of Lady Forethought, who looks after you, while you wear the face that's yours before you are born. Everything happens first there. Once you've been given what it takes to come out of the invisible, just by checking back in, you'll always be in the know. Sadly, it's not quite so simple getting space after you've left. Call Sophia for reservations.
Deep in the storied mountains by quicksilver creeks, beneath a cloud-ragged sky, something rises out of the invisible. Like the way a wave splits and froth comes forth to join the man as he journeys down the switchback path looking for his youth, desiring his feet be washed in the sea, or to nap in a meadow edged by foxglove, laced by iris and tiger lily, where the breeze is easy with the tassels of rye, and deer gives stillness a new name. Along the way, the man's footfalls grow softer and softer, barely audible, as eyes and ears stow images away for nourishment later on. Nothing vexes him as he glides downward, coasting on a spiritual river. A man making light of gravity, whose heart centers the four winds, who was last seen afloat on the vocables of the mother tongue.
Perhaps it would be best to sit on the fallen trunk of a tree at the edge of an open field beneath a cloudless sky on a windless day. Choose the wing bone of a local sparrow and string the shell of an extinct creature with filament from a spider web. Do so with infinite care. Remember how you once executed the gentlest glissandi. Abide as long as you like, in the sacred interval, dreaming of it all before you begin.
From my earliest cognition, I felt a kilter, askew. I didn't fit in with what others surmised of me, nor did the rituals of our village make any sense. Sundays on a hard bench, or pinning the nose on a donkey. There was a ship within me that wanted to tilt into uncharted waters, ready to engage sea monsters and typhoons. My bliss beckoned. At 17, a gnome appeared between pages of a book of poems I found left on a bench near the edge of town. The gnome looked at me with bright green eyes, and though tiny as a sparrow, took hold of my hand fiercely and drew me off into the woods where there was nothing to do but bushwhack through the forest of objections, until a clear space opened ahead, and though what lay before me was nothing at all like anything I'd ever beheld before, and no words for it yet existed in the alphabet of adventure, I carried on like one in the inviting company of their naked lover. Without any compass but intuition, I ventured through atonal grasses, crossed the changeling river of enamel abstractions, and nearly lost my way in the mountains of transparent enigmas, except no way is mine. So how can I lose it? Always for the first time, I move where no one else has ever been. I feather along the razor's edge until I spot footprints of some powerful creature, perhaps a sphinx of some kind, and by stealth and perseverance follow its tracks through the labyrinthine thicket where only ghosts dwell. And then, after what feels like the end of time, at last I find its den in the mirrored chamber of my heart.
I have felt dark hands sprout from the curious earth and take hold of me, tugging me downward, more numb with every falling fathom. I may sleep through the next universe. I might dance into the last atom. Trying to share what I've never had hold of bewilders. I slip down the face of whatever is just now, turning away into its own vanishing. I feel death nipping at my heels in the fugitive light of loose summer. I lift my wings and they turn to ash. I know of no map so clear and particular it will show me where I'll stand tomorrow. It is only natural to feel confused if you see your double taking shape in the shadowed grove. Believe me, the winds of Gnosis are gathering force for unfinished spiritual undertakings, as if the past were still to come.
The sleeping man is dreaming the world. I belong to his dream, gazing with passive fascination at his sleeping body in this autumn thicket. What do I know but what he dreams for me to know? Shrub and tree around us blaze in bronze and crimson, many-tongued cadmium and sun-struck gold. Strange feathered, the sky such hoodman blue, the bark such hidebound green, felted from the dream that the drowsy trees take root in, until the sleeping man awakes, and I have time to sleep. It might be spring by then. I will befriend the time, since the man is dreaming paradise, and I'm to watch over him.
If the myth fits, wear it. Why not clothe yourself in the fictive to make yourself real? The story will welcome you as if it couldn't happen without you. The path unfolds just like someone telling you their most crucial adventure. You will dance to the music of your own wandering. You won't be thoughtless to the dwarf who knows exactly what you need. Courage will befriend you in the thorny woods of uncertainty. Now you'll anticipate the dragon with great reverence. Only then can you do what you must. And if you should taste a morsel of the dragon's heart, afterwards you'll understand whatever the birds and beasts speak. Without thinking of yourself, the kingdom shall be yours.
So softly, so deftly, dawn is purloined by a Titan somnambulist who paces the horizon, plucking things from the sky and occulting them away in a cave near the mouth of a river all names dissolve in. Neither you nor I can bring back the dawn until we forge a new sun from the heart of our own consciousness, like the way bees make honey and cows milk.
There's a trilobite in my foot, mellow whenever in river shallows or sliding in sea foam, and from my knees I'm getting this picture of a huge dragonfly cruising ancient riverbanks beneath thick conifers. Molecules near my elbow are transmitting the image of something crocodilian, armored from snout to tail, secretive and savage in shadowed waterways. Now, I'm feeling a twinge in my neck, like a pterosaur lifting off a cliff, sailing a wind out to sea. And in my left brain, Deinonychus dances through ferns, while in my right, Ultrasaurus chomps on a whole forest. My third eye reconfigures the tan Smilodon, waiting by a tar pit, ready to lunch on a sinking mastodon. And the flightless dodo peeks out of my heart.
As you call to me, anacondas twine about my ankles. As you call to me, orangutans settle asleep for the night in the jungle of my disheveled hair. As you call to me, a porpoise by accident is netted in my heart. As you call to me, a pair of snowy owls emerge from the iris of each eye. As you call to me, iguanas cling to the wave-wet cave walls at the back of the mind. As you call to me, scorpions twitch in my ears and ring-tailed lemurs leap up from my outstretched palms. As you call to me, rain in forgotten places begins to fall.
If you don't speak it from your heart, you have nowhere to begin.
I dwell among the ruins of things half begun.
From my shadow I can tell my place among the stars.
Spontaneity is the last refuge.
I offer my jesting face to the world and stand my time on the death watch of light.
Perfect fragilities utter me.
I know of only one perfect system that is closed, and that is the universe, and it, of course, is infinite.
So much leaves us so early. Only later do we discover the incredible weight of these absences.
Desire in an artist somehow outstrips reality of its insufficiencies.
My insufficiencies surround me from within.
Illimitable panes in a glass house of being to make of oneself something transparent to the light. Illuminati.
No sweetness like winds whispering through summer branches on a moonlit night, nor you riding beside the woman you love as she peacefully sleeps. Madcap Calliope, Rudyard Graveyard, Peekaboo, Silver Sleuth, Grandpa, Silicone, Monophone, Porcupine, Multiple Octopi, Portable Chimpanzee, Pilgrim Pornography, Freelance Back Rubs, Taciturn Minor Bird, Absurd Zombie, Pocatella Cello, Monogram Mozzarella, Participle Jubilee, Sharks to the Lullaby.
He takes his skiff across the headwaters of the unconscious, only to discover how little he gave his boat direction, so wise the tides, and how he was taken where he only obscurely knew he wanted to go. When he put ashore, without realizing he had done so, someone with large green eyes was waiting for him. Her voice had a lullaby in it. It's often what you lose that makes you who you are. Had he lost consciousness? And if he had, what would be there instead? Slowly, a breeze lifted him off the sand. He felt both weightless and transparent. Someone was telling jokes in the clouds. "Is it the past yet?" was how one of the stories ended, and much laughter followed. His allegiance to the light never faltered, even as he wandered without compass in the flash of his unconscious brilliance, a photon among photons. If every emotion lives in its own rhythm, a skillful storyteller may well have composed the universe. To truly perceive what is before your eyes, looking into the vast starlit sky, a synaptic marvel, any way you call it. It's getting late. Be as candid as you can.
It all begins coming down after putting up the Christmas lights. That little leap from the ladder lands me on the flatbed of an old Ford truck, weaving through the dusk with Dean Moriarty at the wheel, talking miles a minute as the smooth plains of Kansas sweep by in a colossal blur. Until at a stoplight in a little nameless town, I wave thanks and jump out onto the deck of a whaler, where all the crews gathered around the captain, hammering into the mainmast a gold doubloon. I'm caught up in the enthusiasm as well, drinking grog from the grail of an uncoupled harpoon held upside down. I'm already slightly juiced when informed the next watch in the crow's nest is mine. Climbing the rigging proves more than I can handle. Halfway up I lose hold. Falling backwards, I close my eyes. I shut them in prayer, flop on a soft sheet of canvas held securely by funambulists, while applause echoes in the small courtyard and the crowd begins reaching for loose change. I look up and see the tightrope suspended between the window and the circus wagon. I take my bow with the others, but when I straighten up, I am all by myself in a church whose sacristy is domeless. A hollow wind whirls up where daylight comes in. Soon, two men enter, deep in discussion. I overhear the dark-browed one say to the other in the sable robe, "It will be done, Cosimo." I step outside and would have slipped off the mountain made of glass had it not been for a ragged fellow who catches my arm and pulls me up on top with him. And before I can ask, he admits, yes, I am the second son of no name. I could swear when he spoke it was my voice speaking. The sun dazzles the glass mountain for as long as we stay there.
You are in it, of it, with it, full of it. You don't know how to start. There's no spark, only fear. Fear this nightmare you frequent may be real. Crazed, sharp fear. Fear of something beginning without you. Fear that it will end without you. fear that you will never come again, fear of soon, fear of past, city fear, fear of the freeway's labyrinth, shrieking, narrow, munching fear, fear you won't hold enough, hollow as you are, an all-consuming fear like the hole you leak out from, fear of no place to park, fear of every strange rattling noise, forbidden fear, chortling fear, radiator fear, fender fear, and merciless hubcap fear. Fear that you are what you drive and your auto is fear. Fear that you will never overcome this stop sign. Fear of sirens and hot lights flashing. Fear of being carjacked. Your tank is full of fear. Simple, ordinary fear. Fear you'll never hear your music. Fear that each fear will be the last fear. Fear that all your fear will be the same. Fear that no one will see you and that you can't make them see you. Fear that you are unseen, even unto yourself. And that you are the vehicle of nothing, taking people nowhere. Fear, sharp, crazed, indestructible fear, pain black and polished in your memory. Fear already, and fear until. A shining lucidity becalms you. Now you are a splendid coupe. You are ablaze with the keenest clarity, your windshield as immaculate as Zen mind. Clarity like chrome, radiant in the sun. Clarity like melody, rising long and deep out of Chopin. Clarity that would make any desire dawn supple and golden. Clarity, wild yet serene. Shift into the highest gear. Something angelic is at the wheel. Smooth winds caress your sapphire contours. Clarity unvexed and seraphic. You accelerate, open to the infinite. Power. Power, sovereign as Beethoven. Power of will as never before believed. Power that drives you with every natural force. Molten power. Typhoon power. Nova power. Power of rhythm. Nothing but rhythm. Wholly the rhythm. Your gear shift is the ace of wands. You are the Corvette of visionary mind, turning chaos to your liking. You vector out of dream into reality. Power crowns you with supernal verve. Your diamond engine generates velocities of grace. Every destination is at hand. You drive like lightning on the highway of the soul. You've become a funky old rattletrap, riding on the fumes of longing's gas, coasting the streets of the quotidian, or the back roads of memory. The rearview mirror reflects much more than what stretches before you. You creak and squeak, while aging parts are wearing out. Your tires are bald, smooth as forgetfulness. You're anxious when the final blowout will come. Old, as in whimpering, beat, and silly. Nothing but oldies on your radio, songs of hapless romance. Old, as in the dusty parking lot of lost chances. The off-ramp you just passed a while back read, "Junkyard ahead." And once more you felt that homeward tug. Hubcaps already purloined by the thieves of time. Your transmission's about to drop. Regrets rust and corrode. The grim mechanic is waiting for you. You don't recall pulling off the road amid fast food trash and the glittering shards of hope. Yet, the unknown remains beckoning. Your life's always been about heading around the next curve. No longer can you reckon this stillness. Your colossal torpor loses hold of itself. Wonder kicks your old jalopy into gear again. Bald tires begin to spin. You roll back onto the highway. Your every dent is mythic. Your every scratch glints in the sunshine. Your bent antenna bobs in the breeze. Surely another road trip holds the secret. This age, this old weariness, slough it off. Indeed, all of it is yours if you only remain awakening.
With melody as his mortar, and the architectures of his imagination classically styled at his fingertips, he builds fluidly in air those geometries of joy and longing. Only those who quest with that tiny, perfectly human ear awake in the heart might glide upon such voluptuary curves carved just right, to fit all things in the center that is everywhere, circumscribing the sphere, nowhere to be found save in the masonry of sound.
At the end of the dream, the shade advised, "Keep looking for the king." When I awoke, I found myself in a deep valley and knew instinctively that the king prefers to be on earth in high places, where there's plenty of stone and the air thin, good for the gymnastics of logic. I set out, as every good son must. The forest was full of omens and seemed never to end. There were ecstatic beholdings at the tips of branches. The streams sang over ancient stones, lifting a brightness out of my body. Nothing was easier to do than to lose my way, though I felt I was always going in circles. I kept returning home, though it didn't look as if I'd ever been there before. It wasn't like a king to be hiding. The question of the king stirs doubt in many. How hard it is to believe such beauty would be open to view. A falcon's incisive cry guided me along the path, spiraling its way up the mountain. Suddenly, a chestnut stag stood before me, antlers tipped in the late light. The black moons of his eyes took hold of me. Soon, a strange force field made our stillness equal, and a voice came into my head. The king carries his kingdom with him. A heartbeat later, the buck sprang into the shadows. I advanced further up the mountain until I had a clean look at a slump-shouldered giant, crunching bones in his misshapen mouth, grunting with pleasure, sitting on a granite ridge as if it were a throne, with a head the size of a filling station, the tangled locks of coarse hair framing avaricious, unthinking eyes. I thought, can a giant eat a king? Did that femur he's picking his teeth with once belong to a king? And that long, apocalyptic belch, did that signal the end of kingship? The day went mute as the giant relieved himself and looked to find a meadow to nap in. I turned, and with the relief of a man who stopped pushing the stone of his thought uphill, began my descent. After all, perhaps the king has hidden the kingdom inside each of us, and when ready, we ourselves will be royal. On the way down, field daisies and larkspur beyond purchase lay before me, and the wind sang in my ears of its silent home.
The force of what's never been written is greater than the force of what has.
Nowadays, silence offers more meaning than ever before.
As if a bubble rose through the waters in which a voice utters your whole life, deftly phrased, but it hasn't quite reached the surface yet.
Almost humming, almost sung, more than ample, zero's melody.
The easy syllables of the breeze leap through trees, providing a constant, speechless grammar.
Finally, what's unsayable keeps stirring forth words.
What remains unspoken gives the poet heart.
Mother threw out all my trading cards while I was away at school. The only one that was left was Kafka's card, which survived by accident, somehow finding its way into my sock drawer. I try not to think of all the cards I'll never be able to replace. It's all down to Franz, looking spiffy and black with his keen eyes and imp ears. That's an odd card, for whenever I put it away, the next time I bring it out, a different photo of Kafka is staring back at me.
Because of the very nature of pataphysics, language pushes up against it, and the interface is fraught with opacity and an onyx-like element of indefinity. This is when you are in the cloud zone that is characteristic of imminent breakthrough. And since I am not getting anywhere with my discussion of pataphysics, since it is the fount of wherever, I shall present a description that shall be a model for what it is I am trying to share with you. I shall call this the paradigm of the square ball, simply because it concerns the object I shall call a square ball. The square ball is an invention so old that we have not given it complete recognition in the fleeting present. As a matter of fact, you must locate this object outside time, in a space that is entirely non-sequential. Besides the round corners and curving cubic angles, the thing that one must perpetually bear in mind when picturing this object is that it rolls in the opposite direction of that in which you push it. Consequently, to play with this atemporal object is not to touch it, for that would set it in motion and it would roll back to you. However, already following the argument this far, you have set the square ball in motion in the very heart of its timeless space. You touched the square ball, and it rolled back around you to the inevitable condition of your now being located within it. At the axis, where all the angles round their squares, the ultimate ellipsis of the square ball is the condition of the mind observing the formation of the world. Obversely, continually bear in mind concerning the square ball that from the most minimal of beginnings, at every instance of your resistance, it grows larger. The ball rolls squarely into that species of atemporality that is time squared, or time out of time, because so much at the center of time. The square ball is an exception that will prove everything its opposite. When you avoid it, it appears. When you examine it, it melts away. To question it is to silence it, and to be speechless before it is to hear it speak in your thoughts. The square ball is to the ratio of desire as a butterfly to its cocoon. In its fourfold circle is the demonstration of the physics outside of physics. The square ball is real precisely because it is unthinkable. as it is equidistant from its every revolving corner. So the extensionless point of its center is always the same distance from itself. Written on the inside of the square ball in an elaborate but cramped hand is this phrase: "We will never know any more about our knowing than the square ball."
Mumblemore knew only that things were no longer like they used to be. It was when he was forced to truly engage the numbskull gymnastics of his bonehead brethren that the circumspection of his options were made plain to him. Mumblemore could still handle metaphor in the scope of his cognitive world. He had not receded into an absolute literalism by enshrining a text as faultless and imperative every time a mind was being made up. Mumblemore had no interest in surrendering his imagination to the dictates of dogma or the adoration of abstractions. Mumblemore understood how paradox governs human affairs, and nothing fails so often like success. What he couldn't explain to this portion of the polity was how their participation in politics was largely by voting against their own best interests. Mumblemore came to realize a hard and painful truth. Things were never even what they used to be.
Quick sun, fat night.
New light, be born on the morrow.
Rise from this rhyme.
Ash and snow, round and round we go.
Time spins, cosmo whirl, we wink at the center of everywhere.
Careless, carefree,
Blood circles from head to foot.
foot to head.
Only your own light keeps the four winds kind.
Sheltered in the blind of radiance
No one else will ever have.
Walking up Fern Canyon, just as the sun rises above a stand of firs, tall and grand, I hear a bird whistle with delicious insistence.
I'm Jesus.
And across the gulf, another bird answers.
I'm Jesus.
When I stop at a bend in the creek where the water breaks over jumbled stones in clear, liquid speech, I hear it say,
I'm Jesus.
I continue on, and the black fly that lights on my bare thigh, ready to jab for blood, I hear say,
I'm Jesus.
The redwood, winter fallen across the path, I climb over it, looking down where the trunk is broken from its roots, and in the chasm, I hear a voice say,
I'm Jesus.
When I come to the falls, the steady, many-tongued white spill over the dark edge keeps saying,
I'm Jesus.
And when I get back to camp, the banana slug is still circling the fire pit. I don't have to ask him what he has to say. I already know.
Once, my dance was the only dance there was. There was no other dance. My dance was the only dance there was. It was a round and a fancy dance, a fanciful, round and smooth dance it was. Such a smooth and round and fancy dance. So smooth and round so fanciful. It was a dark dance, a voluptuous dark dance, a reckoning dance of risk and daring, a voluptuous, daring, dark dance it was. And it was an inward dance, an inward, ever inward dance, a singular dance of self alone, a solitudinous dance. I, alone, was dancing inward, this dance of inward dream, such a sequence to oblivion. And there was a hollowing sense, a harrowing sense, a chilling sense of insignificance, a harrowing, daring sense of insignificance, when all it wasn't was all there was. This dream, this singular romance, this dance, a threatening, tangled sense of a curious nonsense, this dark, obscure, abandoned, obsolescing dance. It was my dance, grotesquely mine. There was no other dance. It was the only dance there was. It was a loaded and maniacal dance. It was a loaded, maniacal, and berserk dance. It was a loaded, maniacal, and a berserk dance. Such a berserk dance. When, at a moment of most miserable inwardness, dancing terribly inward, a strange, intoxicating ambrosia, a transcendent medication of fire and water, jasmine and roses, suffused this wholesome reverie, staggered this dance, and I became transfixed. I was transfixed, deaf and dumb, from the interminable impossibility of this dark, singular dance. And with the dance inert one moment, there dawned within me a certain lucidity, a transporting lucidity. I was transported by a presence, a mystical presence, by a naked cosmic witchery, an ambrosia, the euphoria of a presence, of a voice, of a song, such an easy song. And impossibly, thankfully impossibly, it was impossible to ignore. Thankfully, it was impossible to ignore. Its mere easiness made it impossible to ignore. And then there was, it was then some other dance. And it was a circular, generous dance, a bouncing, jiggling, circular dance. And there was dancing outward as well as dancing inward. And there was dancing inward as well as dancing outward. It was a spiraling dance, spiraling. And it was a giving, spreading dance of jasmine and rosewater, a multitudinous dance. It was a lovely dance. A lovely dance it was. Such a lovely, lovely dance it was.
The end time is upon us, any moment now. It's been coming a great while. No need to think there will be much longer. All things as we know them shall end, any moment now. Before it's over, give us what you have, so you might have nothing to hold you back. already free in mind, to vanish gracefully in the end time, which is upon us ever so soon, any moment now. All you've ever known will be as ash and dust, blown on a hard wind, and what's to come, no one can say, and surely not exactly when it will happen, though soon, sooner than you might think, perhaps any moment now. In the meanwhile, do what you will, be as you are. Do let compassion rise in your heart, for only those who are ready shall observe how everything will change, how nothing will be the same. All your fears surely will come true. Surely whatever you hold dear will be lost in the upheaval when time comes to an end, when what is no longer, any moment now.
If I say I follow the one who leaves no footprints, a crosswind arrives and the trees bend back the other way. I might add, the one I follow is already stationed securely in my heart, where the movement is toward all things beautiful. So, a hidden bird keeps hitting its plangent note until the invisible opens up some. One more thing, I say. The one who guides me is voiceless, yet speaks in every drop of light on the wave backs of the rivers going. Winds come, broken with banshees, calling my name. Winds come, drunken with roses in blue hands. Winds come, eyeless, mouths full of nothing. Winds come, forgetting themselves in my flesh. Winds come, leaving their breath in my bones. Winds come, fanning my heart into flames. Winds come, darkling, weird.